So one of those stories where everything is not hunky-dory in the beginning, everything is not positive, so she has had her own lows and struggles, but nothing succeeds like success. Triumphant on the other side with a 99th percentile score, which was not even in the dream. Frank, maybe was in the dream, but not in reality. It was genuinely not something that, oh, you join, you get, and you write the exam and you succeed. It wasn't so for her. Definitely it wasn't so. And I'm very, very happy that something like this on her own she shared. And this is just awestruck. I mean, that moment that, wow, something that worked for someone who had been struggling. So you will identify a lot with her. Yeah, hi. Finally, we get to really talk to each other like this. I think we've been in touch for some time, but it never happened that we got to really speak like this. So first of all,
I
congratulations. How are you feeling since
I
then?
I just I just can't believe I'm on this side. Like having attended this session in the past, I think you done one last year as well. I just would have never thought I would be one of the people that would be called. I just never expected I would get the kind of score that I did. Also, it's 4:30 a.m. and there's honestly nobody else that I would do this for, but I really owe it to you, Sandeep, sir. So, yeah, I'm definitely here because it wouldn't have been genuinely like would just not have been possible without the entire team. Just unimaginable score. I
Yeah,
just
it is
don't know how that.
unimaginable because we kind of know your journey and the faculty interaction that you had, and sometimes things not improving despite you trying because probably
Yeah,
anxiety or something. So
yeah,
just
yeah.
just take us through your prep as to what resources you went through and what was your challenge area, and then the whole thing, and then which all material you talked extensively about the portal in your email, and then the exam experience. We'll take it up one by one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll start with my two big what I thought when I started the process, the hangups would be. I had really bad experience with standardized testing when I was studying in high school. So I feel like I had that hangover over the SAT and all that stuff. And I just thought, I'm just not gonna do well in the test. That was my mindset coming into it, which I think was a very negative mindset. It was a hangover, but it made me very anxious when I would take a test. And I think the second thing was that I was really weak in verbal. Also, I thought verbal would be my only weakness, but when I started studying more, I realized that even though quant was technically my strong suit, I would still make really silly mistakes. Like I would not be effective with my pacing. I wouldn't be effective with knowing the right method or when to use smart numbers and when to just, I used to just used to the Indian thing of writing the whole thing out, writing, this equals this. So technically, I want to say that I wasn't good at anything. I know this sounds really bad, but I wasn't good at anything starting out in this specific process. And I would say verbal was my weakest. And somehow I performed the best in verbal, which is crazy.
Yeah,
But I would say,
99th percentile in verbal. I mean, and overall 99th, but you scored more in verbal than in quant. All the quant,
yeah,
as you say, was a stronger thing. So I'm
yeah,
sure that felt great, right? That must
yeah.
have felt.
I couldn't believe, I know this sounds really silly, but when I saw my score, I thought I read it wrong. I just didn't think that it was possible for me. So I just sat there thinking there's some mistake, like maybe they've calculated something wrong, or like there's just no way this can be my score. Like this is impossible.
Mhm.
So definitely unbelievable, but possible. I think I should be the poster example of anything is possible kinds. So talking specifically about resources, I genuinely know how like important it is to make Octave a part of your subconscious. So what I started doing is I started doing the LSAT passages that you had shared, and I put myself at the time limit of LSAT because I knew that it was much, much harder and much more difficult. I thought that maybe if I really challenged myself with those LSAT passages first as like a refresh to make sure that Octave becomes a part of my subconscious. And I kind of remembered the 700 to 800 passages because I'd kind of done them in the past as well. So I just made it a part of my subconscious. So that was one. Then the second thing I started doing is I actively started using the portal and I kind of just followed what was said, like when to do RC long sitting, when to do CR long sitting, when to do topic wise tests, so I just literally the portal was one of the best things that could have happened to me because it just had so many prep materials that I could kind of learn how to conquer my anxiety in those tests because they were harder. So I could kind of just maneuver that, okay, when I do these kind of questions, I feel this certain way. When I do this, I feel this way. So maybe this is where I breathe. Maybe this is where I take a little pause. Or I just learned how to maneuver my anxiety first based on the portals. And then also was really able to hone in on the places where I was maybe making specific mistakes. That was specifically for RC. And then for CR, I would say the best thing about your process and what you teach is, I think in the past, I've only experienced teachers in standardized testing who show how to solve the question at hand. What you taught was how to get the entire question type right. So it wouldn't be कि ये evaluate question कैसे सही कर सकते हैं. It would be like, how do you do an evaluate question overall and how do you get it right every single time? So I would just practice first from your book on all the methods. Like I needed to ensure that I was following the methods even in questions that were easy. So for example, assumption, which was really tricky for me in the beginning because sometimes the answers were so outlandish that I was like, doesn't even make sense to pick this answer, like it's not even relevant. But you had said that we need to do negation even in the questions that seem easy. Of course, if they're too easy, then you don't need to, but even in the questions that are not that difficult, even in the questions, do negation, because unless you follow that method until you follow cause and effect, for example, in strength and weaken, you're not going to be able to get it for the tougher questions. So I would say that that was one of the best advices, and I just made it everything you taught. If there was a method that I didn't remember, I would go back to, I think, topic. There was one book that's focused where you have specific questions on the topic, so I would go back and do that.
Yeah,
So that
topic.
was for
Yeah.
so that was verbal. That was, and by the end of it, I mean it, I thought I was doing so bad in the test because the questions were so easy. Like compared to the testing material that we had in the portal, I was like, this is not normal. Like, why are the questions so easy? Like, they're taking me like 1 second to do it. Like, I don't know how this is happening. But yeah, and then I would say another mistake I made that I didn't do early enough, and I just should have listened again, just read properly the whole thing. I you said to use a stopwatch. I remember this so clearly in your post, but I didn't use a stopwatch. I used a timer in the beginning part. And I realized in hindsight that that was such a silly mistake because unless you see like a stopwatch kind of ticking in front of you, you don't really understand how to pace. And after when I started the mock tests, I realized, wait, this is so much more helpful because I'm able to track the specific times that I need for each specific question type. That was verbal. I spoke a lot, so I'll pause here. You have anything you'd like to add?
No, no, that's great. Tell us about quant also. I mean, it may have been a natural strength at school level or at college level, but this is a totally different ballgame. You can make silly mistakes.
Exactly.
And data
Exactly.
sufficiency, although it's part of data insights, but I'm sure it's related. So how did
Yeah.
you conquer your silly mistakes? Because I was talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so first I'll talk about quant. As I'd mentioned, my mistake wasn't that I didn't know the concept. It was just that I didn't know how to apply it in a manner that was efficient. I was just used to really long methods and not using, I think I used smart numbers too late. Like I didn't really leverage the answer choices sometimes to plug in value. Sometimes it's just easier to do that than to do the long method. And since I wasn't used to that, that was very difficult to imbibe. My biggest mistake was silly mistakes. Just like those kind of questions that you think you'll get right in the moment, you get them wrong because you didn't read the question properly, or there was kind of like a logical twist to it, or it was just, asked x plus y instead of what is x or something like that. So I would make a lot of silly mistakes. And what I learned from that is one, error log is really helpful. I wish I reviewed it a little bit more. I think I reviewed it a little less, but just I used to write very detailed answers. Like you didn't say, oh, got this wrong because of A. I said this was the concept, this was the topic. Why I got it wrong is because even though I wasted X amount of time on this question, I didn't do Y. Like I would really write the whole thing out so that even if I didn't have a chance to review it immediately, it would kind of be in the part of my subconscious, like, oh, this is what I'd written for this kind of question. So that's for quant. And then if I made any specific mistakes, so within quant probability, as probably everyone is, it was very tricky. And probability and then numbers, I would say, was two of my weak topics, and relative speed. You had given a book, Quant and DI Insights. I thought that was really helpful on top of the content that you provided to kind of go really in depth into a specific topic, because they had a lot of questions on something. So I was really weak, for example, on relative speed. So what I ended up doing is I just ended up focusing primarily on like the topics and examples. Like I would do everything and then I would do the level 2 and level 3 questions. And then for
Super.
IR, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm saying super. That is the one thing. That is how you fix your challenges and mistakes. Solve a lot of questions in that. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
what is IR like? Did you make mistakes in data sufficiency also, by the way, in the beginning? Was that something like a norm?
Yeah. I would say data sufficiency was really weak. Um, yeah, I think yes, it was really weak. But what was really surprising is that integrated reasoning in the beginning was actually very tough for me somehow, because of like verbal I'd kind of figured out at this point. Quant I was also improving, but IR I think was new to me, because obviously I didn't really pay attention to it in the past, because I knew it wasn't really graded and now I was being graded. So I think I really struggled with the concepts that were merged. So for example, if there would be like a conditional reasoning question or something that was like where you had to pick multiple options. What used to mess me up in integrated reasoning is I would get two out of the three sub questions right. And I was like, if I'm getting two of them right, why can't I just get the third one right as well? Like,
I
I don't
remember, I
understand.
remember that used to be one of your, I mean, one email in which it was so frustrating. I mean, the entire
Oh
email was
God.
like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't get
Like
all three right.
I was just looking at it. I would like, because I would do, honestly, for IR, I only use the portal. It's the best thing ever. There's more questions than you can want. I did first IR post work. Yeah, post work. There are 12 sessions there. And then I did the IR marathon. There are 13 sessions there. I did all of them. And actually, there was certain times where I was like, maybe I need to do like a long sitting because I'm distracted, kind of like RC and CR. So I even did one of those sessions where I sat for 3 hours and I did like four back-to-back IR sessions, to, be like, maybe I need to just really stretch that muscle. I think maybe that was helpful. I would say that in the test, I still found that to be the most difficult topic. Maybe if I hadn't scored that well and I had to, in the future, maybe give another attempt, I would focus even more on IR. Maybe I would review more my mistakes. My biggest issue was that it just felt like all the concepts were merged. Was verbal, it was conditionals, critical reading, reading comprehension, and
Quant
math.
also. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, are you serious? Already itna mushkil hai and you're adding all this. But that would be the mistake I think I would make a lot. Like I would just, for the sake of time, like one question I wouldn't read properly, because genuinely, again, just repeating what you said, it's all about reading. Sometimes even the question can be phrased in a manner that can completely change up the answers. So IR is one place where like it is even more important to make sure you're reading not just the whole thing, but the question as well. A lot of times my mistake was just in not properly inferring what the question said. So I would say that it was a reading thing, and then a ton of review. In the end, like just reviewing, and then just knowing that even though every question is different, like I think there was never a question that I'd like encountered twice. But the type of questions stay the same. So like multi-source, graph, table analysis. So whatever you're weak in there, and I think the mock portal even shows you what you're weakest in, hone in on that. And then your PDF also, I believe you'd shared a PDF. I
Yeah.
wish I'd reviewed that more closely. I think even if I couldn't do the questions, I wish I'd just gone through the kinds of questions that come, because that covered the toughest topics. So that would actually be one thing I would do if I could go back and say, you have a couple more days for integrated reasoning. What would you do? I think I would have reviewed the PDF, even if I didn't attempt the question, just like going through the PDF to see, okay, this question looks really tricky. What does this question mean? I think I would have done that as well in hindsight.
Superb, superb. Eventually, did you improve your accuracy and pacing in IR as well? Eventually, or
Yes. I would say I wish I did a little better on it. Given I majored in statistics, it's kind of sad that integrated reasoning is the one I performed worst in. But I think yes, I started really, really, really low. Like There was one time, and it's so embarrassing, but I'll just say it to give hope. I did a IR section, and I was like, Meghal, this time you'll do well. There are 12 questions in SIRS portal, by the way, each section. And I was already on IR post work, like session 11, 12, something at this point. I'd done enough of it. And I thought, Meghal, this time I part to kar le, please. Like, just focus, read everything. I got 11 out of 12 questions wrong. And I just remember crying. Like, I just remember thinking, what am I doing wrong? Because there was something I was doing wrong. Because it wasn't, I think I was just doing questions and questions and questions, and I wasn't maybe doing enough review. It was so frustrating because I was like, how am I not able to get these right? And again, I would like read it and it would be like, answer is ABA, you picked AAA. Or it would always just be like one subsection. I would never get the whole question wrong. It would be like one subsection of the entire thing. And then I realized that, okay, I can't just keep wasting resources by doing questions. And to go back, I did a very long review of all the questions I was getting wrong, tried to understand. And then in marathon series, it really improved by the time I started doing those. So
Super.
yeah, it really
It's
improved.
a long, drawn out process, the IR thing. All right. Exam experience, but this time no anxiety, like as it
There
was
was.
in some of the post podcasts and so on. Yeah.
There was a little bit of anxiety, I would say. But because of the portal, I had just done so much testing, and I really put myself on tough time pressure because your tests are significantly harder, which I loved. Like, I actually loved that they are so much harder than the real test because you feel like you're doing so well on the real. Like, I was looking at the math questions, I was like, what is this? Like, I'm just messing it up. Like, they're asking like exponents, like basic stuff. Like, I don't understand where are the tough questions that Sandeep sir taught us how to solve. Like, nothing was difficult on the final day, even a little bit. I actually ended up finishing math early. Even the probability was super easy. And I just think it was a consequence of being prepared with like the hardest questions in mind and a very difficult time limit. I was anxious, I think, because of just leveraging the portal and using, and there's so many different cuts of the tests. There's topic wise, agar aap kisi topic pe weak ho, aap topic wise test kar lo, aap sectional kar lo. There's so many different things you can do. So honestly, I think I beat it. It's your point of, if you're anxious, you didn't study hard enough. So maybe my there was something missing in my prep at the
Anxious, if
beginning.
1 or 2 minutes in the beginning is fine, but throughout the
Really.
time, yeah, it's
And
different.
I think it had been such a frustrating journey when I got in. I was feeling, but my order of doing was based on, I was like, I know verbal is a part of my subconscious. It's really easy. I wanted to be in the middle. So I think even knowing how to order your tests, like my recommendation, no, you don't have to take it if you don't want to, but do the hardest thing for you in the end. Because if you do hardest thing earlier, you may get discouraged कि ये इतना मुश्किल था कि you maybe get discouraged. So I made sure to do integrated reasoning last, which was the best decision ever, because when I was doing integrated reasoning, it was still a little difficult for me. I'm not gonna lie. And I thought I'll have to take another attempt. Which was like like I thought I'll have to do that. But then I saw the score and I just so I would say try to do the hardest thing in the end. I wanted to do quant in the beginning because I knew it was my strong suit. It would be familiar, even though like it's I'm familiar with verbal. I was just like, if it ends up being really difficult, maybe I won't be prepared for it. But quant, even if it's difficult, I know it's just my natural inclination. So my order was quant, verbal, and integrated reasoning last. When I saw the first math question, it was really easy, but I was anxious. And I literally thought to myself, I was like, I have not worked this hard to come and mess it up because of anxiety. Like, genuinely, like, I remember thinking this to myself, like, I can't just keep using this as an excuse for the rest of my life to justify a certain way I am. Like, this kind of stress is going to happen to me for the rest of my life. And I'm going to experience these kind of things for the rest of my life. Like, I can't just keep saying, oh, I'm somebody who's very anxious. It's a very beyond the point, it just seems silly. So what I did is I just breathed a lot. Focus on your breathing. I practiced something called boxed breathing, where you inhale for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, exhale for 3 seconds, and then hold for 3 seconds. And I did that. And I think then I was just locked in. I didn't get anxious for the rest of the test.
Superb, superb. So anything unusual then? Because let's say you did quant first, so you said it was very easy for you. But anything in quant or in verbal and integrated reasoning, maybe it was tough for you still, but do you find something totally unmanageable or just that the time wasn't enough in integrated reasoning? So tell us everything. Like, was there anything unusual? You may recall and tell.
Yeah, I wouldn't say for quant and verbal unusual anything. I would say that in the end of verbal, I got a tough passage. And I knew, okay, this is a tough one because, usually you can't really scroll on the RC passage, but this one I just kept scrolling. It was long. So I think just resetting the pacing based on, like, it doesn't need to always be like, the fixed amount. If you know you're kind of running short on time, I kind of reevaluated again what my pacing would be when I saw the length of the passage. I said, okay, this is difficult. It's not even LSAT level difficult or the kind of passages that you have in 700 to 800 difficult, but slightly anxiety inducing difficult is how I'd put it, because I was like, shit, ये तो बहुत ही लंबा passage है. And I think when you've done something so many times, I feel like sometimes that muscle just takes over. And even though I was really anxious, I feel like I was able to pull myself out of it. And another great thing that I would really leverage is the new change where you can bookmark and review questions. So there were two questions that I changed for this specific question. So I was like, Pele, just finish it, make it to the end. Don't waste too much time and get stuck up in this very long, kind of tricky passage, and then वापस आ जाना. And I actually came back after finishing everything else and I corrected two of the answers. And you can see in the report, I actually ended up getting one of them right. The second one was incorrect. So one mistake I think I must have made in RC this time. But I would say really use review as a way to calm down your mind, because you can always say, oh, I can come back to this, so that you're not wasting your time doing a question that, there is that hangover that happens sometimes where you're like, no, no, I can get this if I just spend another minute. So I would say use the review to the best of your ability as much as you can. And then anything surprising? Only thing that was slightly interesting was data sufficiency. I think there was a data element to data sufficiency. And then there was also a little bit of a text element. It was like, how do you maneuver? It seemed more like some of the data sufficiency questions, I want to say maybe one or two of them were kind of curveballs, because they seemed a little bit more English focused than math. That would be the only kind of surprise. But apart from that, I think everything was really easy. If I had a little bit more time for IR, I think having done quant and verbal for so long, it just kind of became a part of my subconscious. Maybe integrated reasoning, not as yet. So I would say that would be, in hindsight, maybe something I should have focused more on. It's not as easy as they market it. It's definitely
Right. I understand.
very much as the difficulty of quant and verbal as well. So don't think it's like, जैसे पहले था हमें लगता था कि oh, it's not even included in our score, so let's not focus on it. I think it is something that needs to be made a priority as well.
All right. And when you saw the score eventually, when you submitted, and what was the reaction? You
I
already
I
told.
I I wish I was lying. Like I thought I read it wrong. Like I wish I was lying. I was like this. I know they don't do 517. Like there's just no way, because I knew I just needed a 695. Like I knew that August 695 aa jayenge, I'll be very happy. Like I'll be at the level where I can maybe get some scholarships. I just need a 695. Full stop. And then yeah, I really wish I was like, I thought I read the score wrong. And I just kept looking at it. I was like, there's no way, like maybe, and I was actually so scared that they'd done a miss. Imagine having such less belief in yourself. I think I should have worked a little bit on self-affirmation as well. But I actually, as soon as the report came out, I remember it was at 2 or 3 in the morning. I opened my laptop and I checked it, because I was like, what if they've corrected my score? Like I genuinely was like, it's not 715, it's definitely something else. But yeah, it feels like a very beautiful end to the journey. And I meant every word I said, guys. Like I really didn't just do this for the sake of doing it. Like I think waking up at 4:30 should be an attestament to how much I really respect Sandeep sir and his methods, and really want to share that if I can do it, genuinely anyone can. Like I really, really mean it. um just listen, like don't ask for a different plan. I know you've probably heard that spiel already. I've been in this session last year. So, but don't ask for a different plan. Just follow the class sessions, post class sessions PDF all the way, even the pacing. Try to imbibe that. Just make everything that sir says like a part of your subconscious, and it'll genuinely work.
Thanks. And first of all, really making it so early in the morning for you there. I think I'm really, really beyond elated and beyond surprised. I think I don't know what to say, because it's very tough, obviously, to be making it. And you were pretty awake, I think, even a few hours earlier. So you barely have slept. Yeah.
I think I was just excited. I was really scared that I was gonna miss it. So I was like, when I woke up, I was like, let me just ask Richa if I can join now, only because I'm like really scared I'm gonna miss it. I'm not an early riser at all.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, also last thing I would say, I know doing 3 hours is very difficult, but I think keeping myself accountable to that, and I had some trouble even keeping myself accountable. So something I did is I would have like a tiny reward. So I would do the toughest stuff in the beginning during my studying, and I would end with अच्छा अच्छा मैंने अगर 1 घंटे या 2 घंटे अभी पढ़ाई कर ली उसके बाद I'll watch half an hour TV. Like having a little reward I thought was really helpful for me. Just a little way to kind of make you motivate you if you're struggling with holding yourself accountable and studying, because that was me for a bit as well. Like I would say I was studying but not really studying. I was in it but not really. It was half in half out. I really wasn't doing myself any favors. But yeah.
So 3 hours you could manage on most days. Then that is what you're trying to tell.
I really tried my best to the point, so I used to feel guilty if I didn't. So I used to wake up before my job, and I have to go in person, but I used to wake up before my job at 6 or something and just do like one session because I'd feel so guilty. Like I tried to the best. I know I'm very lucky in the sense that I have a job where I also, like, of course, like I'm not gonna tell my job this right now, but like just I was able to balance really well. Like my company focuses a lot on culture, so I would still have a sufficient amount of time. I know everyone is not as lucky, and I know that in India it's very different, and it can be difficult to manage with work. I think that was a lucky aspect where I got lucky, where the job made it easy for me to maybe start studying at 7 and then study till 10. So I would say that was a
So
lucky thing.
that's great. Thanks for joining in. Now I can I think you can sleep. You wouldn't be as
Yeah.
anxious and restless. Thank you for doing
Of
this.
course. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye.